Hello students, a very warm welcome to all. In the previous lecture we studied about life, about some important characteristics of living beings, and in these characteristics we also studied about defining features of living beings. In this lecture we will study about some more important characteristics of living beings. In this we will study about adaptation. So what is adaptation? Adaptation is a useful and inheritable change in form, function and behavior which enables an organism to adjust well and successfully in its environment. So when there is some change in the surroundings of an organism, we found some changes in an organism. So these changes, as a result of these changes, an organism is able to adjust well and successfully in its environment. Now, adaptation is of two types. One is short-term adaptation and another one is long-term adaptation. Now these short-term adaptation, they appear for a short period. In order to overcome specific stress or in response to a particular season. When there is some change in the surroundings of an organism, there occurs some changes in the organism, but these changes, they appear only for a short period. Now these long-term adaptations, these develop in response to struggle for existence. So when there is competition among the organism, an organism shows some changes which are for lifelong, and in order to exist in its environment, an organism develops these changes. Now these short-term adaptation, they disappear as soon as the stress period is over, but these long-term adaptations, they are lifelong. Now these short-term adaptations, these are either heritable to acquired and have little role in evolution. Mostly they are also inheritable. We can call them inheritable because they cannot pass from parents to their offspring. But these long-term adaptations are always heritable and they have a major role in evolution. Now for example, in short-term adaptations, there are some animals which show hibernation. Hibernating animals are there. So what this hibernation, it involves some physiological changes. For example, drop in body temperature and slowed metabolism. In long-term adaptation, the example is of kangaroo. This kangaroo, it makes use of its thick tail. It has a thick tail. It makes use of this thick tail as fifth limb for balancing the body while running. So these were short-term adaptations and long-term adaptations. Now, evolution. One more important characteristic of living beings. The literal meaning of evolution is to unroll, to unfold, unfold or reveal hidden potential. To reveal hidden potential, what is inside. Darwin defined evolution as descent with modification. So evolution, generally we can say that when there is change in the characteristics of a species over several generations, that we call evolution. This is also one of the important characteristics of living beings. Evolution, we found evolution is there. Now another important characteristic of living beings is repair and regeneration. What is repair and regeneration? It is ability to repair or renew damaged or lost body parts. That is repair and regeneration. And another characteristic of living beings is aging. So what is aging? It is progressive decline or deterioration in structure and functions of an organism. When the functions of an organism, there is decline in the structure and functions of an organism, that process is called aging. Study of aging is called gerontology. This aging, it starts before birth. That is called biological aging. Aging starts before birth. That is called biological aging. Now after that is one more important characteristic, that is death. Death means termination of function of life. function of life. When the body stops functioning, that we called as death. Study of death is called thanatology. It is also one of the most important characteristic property of living beings. It is most important regulatory process which prevents overcrowding and brings recycling of materials. Now, one important point here is death. There are two types of deaths. One is called clinical death and another is called biological death. For example, when we will say that it is clinical death and when we can say that it is biological death. If there is the stoppage of heartbeat, if the heartbeat stops, pulse stops, breathing stops, pupils dilate, we call it as clinical death. Now, biological death is there when there is stoppage of functioning of brain. When the brain stops functioning, we call it as a biological death. Now, there are some important points here in biological death, that is pallor mortis. It means paleness which happens after death. When an organism dies, after some time there is paleness. That is called pallor mortis. Another one is livor mortis. This means setting of blood in lower portion. When an organism dies, the blood starts to set in the lower portion of the body, that is called livor mortis. Another one is algor mortis. Algor mortis means reduction of body temperature. When there is reduction in the body temperature of an organism, that is called algor mortis. And fourth one is rigor mortis. It means muscles enter a prolonged phase of contraction. We know that there is contraction and relaxation of muscles, but when an organism dies, these muscles, they enter a prolonged phase of contraction. After that, we will not found that relaxation, contraction and relaxation of muscles will not be there. So, when we will find these things, that is when heartbeat will stop, pulse will stop, breathing will stop, etc., we call it a clinical death. And when there is stoppage of functioning of brain, we call it as a biological death. And in this biological death, 1, 2, 3 and 4 important processes we found. First one is pallor mortis, the second one is livor mortis, algor mortis and rigor mortis. So these are, on the basis of these we can say whether it is a clinical death or it is a biological death. Now another topic we will discuss is diversity. We know that there is variety and variability of species found. We know that there are millions of living organisms are there. Now, one important point, if we will take the example of a single group of insects outnumber all the plants. If we will take single group of insects, they may be more than the number of plants which are found on this earth, more than the total number of plants. A single group of insects is there. Now, we know that every year about 15,000 new organisms are discovered. Study of insects, that is called entomology. Study of insects is called entomology. Here I will tell you an important point. Birds, we know that birds, when they fly, their wings, they do not get fatigued. What is the reason behind that? While flying, birds, they do not get fatigued. Why? Because they use a sugar, a type of sugar that is called trehalose sugar. Trehalose, here I will write. Trehalose sugar. Birds use this trehalose sugar while flying so that their wings, they do not get fatigued. Now, biologists, they have discovered some techniques on the basis of which we can identify, we can name and we can group various organisms. Okay, biologists have devised some techniques for identification, naming and grouping of various organisms. Now this identification, grouping of organisms, this depends upon the extent of similarities and differences as per Stern rule. This depends upon the similarities and difference. So organisms are classified on the basis of their similarities and differences. Now, identification, naming and grouping of various organisms is done as per certain rules. Now, systematics, scientists who study and contribute to the classification of organisms, which deals with the classification of organisms. These, they are called systematists or taxonomists. So the scientists which deal with the study of the classification of organisms, they are called systematists or taxonomists, and their subject, that is called systematics. Now, the term systematics was coined by Carolus Linnaeus. Important. The term systematics was coined by Linnaeus. Okay? Now, generally, the terms, for example, classification, systematics, and taxonomy, these terms, that is classification, systematics, and taxonomy, they are used interchangeably. Generally, we can say that they have same meaning. But there are some taxonomists like G. Simpson, taxonomist, that is G. Simpson. He relates them to separate fields. Now, what is systematics? Systematics is the study of diversity of organisms and all their comparative and evolutionary relationships based on comparative anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, ecology. So what is systematics? Systematics is the study of diversity of organisms. And in this systematics, we also compare their relationships. We also compare their evolutionary relationships. And these comparative and evolutionary relationships, these are based on when we compare the anatomy, their physiology, their biochemistry and ecology. So these comparative and evolutionary relationships, they are based on the comparative anatomy, physiology, biochemistry and ecology. So in systematics, we study about organisms and all their relationships. Are compared. How these relationships are compared, whether it is evolutionary relationship, whatever relationship it is, these are compared, and these relationships, these comparative relationships, they are based on when the different organisms, when their anatomy is compared, that is comparative anatomy, when their physiology is compared, that is physiological anatomy, biochemistry, ecology. So in systematics, there is the study of diversity of organisms, and then in these we compare their relationships. Now, Simpson regarded classification as a subtopic of systematics. And classification means it deals with ordering of organisms into groups. Classification means ordering of organisms into groups, and taxonomy means the study of principles and procedures of classification. So all the definitions. First, systematics we study is the study of diversity of organisms and their relationships, and then classification means ordering of organisms into groups, and taxonomy means the study of principles and procedures of classification. The different principles and the different procedures which are used in classification, that is called taxonomy. Here for classification, we know that I will give you an example of classification for grouping of organisms. Classification means grouping of organisms. When we place organisms into different groups based on their similarities and differences, for example, we will make a group of organisms, different groups of organisms in this A, B, C, D. For example, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. These are 1, 2, 3 groups of organisms. In this group, 4 organisms are there, same in this group and this group. Now, according to the classification, According to the principles and procedures of classification, the organisms which show some similar characteristics are placed in one group, and the organisms which show some characteristics, they are similar characteristics, they are placed in another group. So like that, organisms are classified based on their similarities and differences. If we will take the example of this, an organism of this group and this group, there may be differences, but if we will take the example of two organisms of this group, there will be similarities will be found in this group, separately in these groups also. Okay, now John Ray coined the term species. So who coined the term species? John Ray. These are important points. Remember these names. John Ray coined the term species. John Ray coined the term species. For what? He coined this term species for a group of morphologically similar organisms. So, a group of morphologically similar organisms, these were called species by John Ray. So he coined this term for morphologically similar organisms, and he also tried to differentiate between genus and species. Now, the two terms, important, monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous, they were also coined by John Ray. Important, John Ray coined the term species, and he also coined the terms monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous. Now, Linnaeus is regarded as father of taxonomy. Linnaeus is regarded as the father of taxonomy. Now, just like we know that father of botany is Theophrastus. Linnaeus is regarded as father of taxonomy. He published a book, Systema Naturae, in which he classified 4,326 organisms. He organized 4,326 species of animals. So in Systema Naturae, Linnaeus described 4,326 species of animals. And in Species Plantarum, this is Systema Naturae and this is Species Plantarum. In this Species Plantarum, it contains description of 5,900 species of plants. Description of 5,900 species of plants. And he classified these 5,900 species of plants according to his system of classification, and his system of classification was based on sexual character. So Linnaeus he classified these 5,900 species of plants into different groups, and his classification was based on sexual character. Important point. So the Linnaeus, he described, he organized, or he classified the 5,900 species of plants according to his system of classification, and his system of classification, it was based on sexual character. Important. So the question can be framed regarding this. Linnaeus arranged 5,900 species of plants in his Species Plantarum on the basis of which character? The answer is sexual character. So on the basis of sexual character, Linnaeus classified 5,900 species of plants. Okay? Now, Linnaeus, he also introduced a system of nomenclature. Nomenclature means naming of organisms. Linnaeus, he also introduced one of the systems of nomenclature for both plants and animals. That nomenclature is known as binomial nomenclature. Binomial means two. Bi means two. So in binomial nomenclature, an organism has two names. Okay. So Linnaeus, he introduced a system of nomenclature that is called binomial nomenclature. Now, cladistics, it classifies organisms on the basis of historical order, according to the historical order in which the evolutionary branches arose. About that evolutionary branch, phylogenetic tree, we will study, okay, later. Now, so you just remember that cladistics. It classifies. Cladistics is a branch of science which classifies, which is based on the classification of organisms according to the historical order. Now this branch of science, that is this cladistics, it led to the emergence of new systematics. As a result of this new systematics, or we also call it as biosystematics or neosystematics, this emerge as a result of cladistics. Now new systematics or neosystematics or biosystematics. So what is this? It is a concept of systematics that considers a species to be the product of evolution. So about evolution we will study. For that there is separate unit for that evolution. In this evolution, in this chapter, we will understood this fully. What is this? What is these phylogenetic trees, evolutionary branches that we will study there. So you just understood this. It is a concept of systematics that considers a species to be the product of evolution. So the species, it has been evolved from its ancestors. So new species, they develop from ancestors due to evolution. Now the concept of new systematics, it was developed by Sir Julian Huxley. The concept of new systematics, it was developed by Sir Julian Huxley. Now some important features of this are: species are not isolated. There is no isolation. Species are not isolated. They are related amongst themselves. By common descent, or we can say them by common ancestor. And these species, they differ from one another due to the accumulation of different variations. Okay, so species, they are not isolated, they are related among themselves. By a common ancestor. And these species, they differ from one another due to the accumulation of different variations, or we can say that due to the accumulation of various changes. Here I will show you. For example, this is species A, this is species B, and this is species C. Okay. For example, these two species A and B, they arise from this species. For example, Z. And this species arises from another species. For example, Y. Evolved from this. Now, these all, they evolved from another species, that is X. It means that this A and B, they have a common ancestor here. This C, this evolved from this ancestor here, but these two, they also have some relationships with this Y. But all these species, they have a common ancestor X. When there is accumulation of different changes, when different changes occur there, and these changes, they pass from parents to their accumulate there. As a result of that, a species evolved, a species developed. Okay. Now, in this cladistics, I will tell you one important point, that is clade. What is a clade? Clade means it is a group of organisms that have evolved from a common ancestor. For example, this is a group of organisms, A, B, and C. They evolved from the common ancestor X. So this is called clade. What is clade? It is a group of organisms that have evolved from a common ancestor. Okay. Now another one is cladogram. So what is cladogram? This cladogram, it is a tree-like diagram that includes an ancestor and all of its descendants. For example, this is ancestor to these organisms. These are called the descendants. This is also a cladogram. Here, different organisms, they evolve from the common ancestor. They all have the common ancestor, that is X. Okay, and these all are the descendants of this organism, that is these A, B, and C. These all are the descendants of this organism X. So when there was some change in the environment, there occurs some changes in this organism. As a result of that, it passes these changes to another organism from parents to offsprings, and these changes remain permanently there. So variation, accumulation of changes or accumulation of variations starts, and after that, when there is accumulation of variations, a new organism evolved from this. Same happens there. So this is a cladogram. It is a tree-like diagram that includes an ancestor. This is an ancestor, and these are all of its descendants. So we can say that these A, B, and C, they have a common ancestor here, that is X. For example, A and B has a common ancestor here at Z. C has a common ancestor Y. So here they are related. They all are related. Here you can understand species, they are not isolated. They are related amongst themselves. They are related amongst themselves by a common descent. This is a common descent. And these species, they differ from one another due to the accumulation of different variations. Now, we were discussing about the important features of cladistics, or that is neosystematics, biosystematics. So first one, we study that species are not isolated. Next one is man's stress is laid upon subspecies and population instead of species. So in cladistics, man's stress is laid upon subspecies and population instead of species. Now, in cladistics, statistical data is used to determine about the primitiveness or advancement of a species. So, data is used to determine whether an organism or whether a species is primitive or it is advanced. Now, basics in classification. We know that classification means grouping of organisms or ordering of organisms into groups. Now, the branch of science which deals with the study of principles and procedures of biological classification, that is called taxonomy. This definition was given by A.P. Candoli. So what is taxonomy? Taxonomy is that branch of science that deals with the study of principles and procedures of biological classification. The different principles and procedures which we use in the classification of organisms, that is called the taxonomy. So taxonomy is the branch of science that deals with the study of principles. So in taxonomy, we study about the principles and procedures of biological classification. So this definition of taxonomy was given by A.P. Candoli. In this, first one is taxonomy, characterization and identification, then nomenclature is there, then classification is there in taxonomy. Three important points: characterization and identification, nomenclature and classification. These terms, that is characterization and identification, etc., we will understood them one by one. Now, first, characterization and identification. For example, a new organism was discovered. For example, now we need to find out some place. We need to find out some place in the biological classification where we will kept this organism. For that, we will see whether it is related to some known species or not. That is, we will compare this unknown species or unknown organism with a known species. So, in this characterization and identification, what we will do? To identify and characterize an unknown organism by comparing it with known organism. Okay? So, this is done with the help of taxonomical aids. So in characterization and identification, an unknown organism is compared with known organism. If it has similar characteristics with some known organism, then it will be placed in that group. Okay, so this is done with the help of taxonomical aids. Now classification means ordering of organisms into groups or categories on the basis of their affinities or relationships. When we found some unknown organism, we will compare it with some known organism. After that, we will place this organism in that group in which it has some relationships. For example, A is an unknown organism. For example, there are 1, 2, 3 groups. We will compare this unknown organism with some known organism. If if this unknown organism has similarities with the organisms of this group, then it will be placed in this group, and if it will have the similarities with the organisms of this group, then it will be included in this group. That is the classification on the basis of their affinities or relationships, on the basis of its similarities with the known organism. Now, nomenclature. Nomenclature means it is the science of providing distinct and proper names to organisms as per the established universal practices and rules, so that they can be easily recognized and differentiated from others. So we know that in nomenclature, there is naming of organisms. So in nomenclature, a distinct and proper name is given to an organism so that it can be easily identified and recognized. It can be easily identified and recognized. I will give you an example. For example, mango. Why this nomenclature is important? Mango. It is scientific name is Mangifera indica. Mangifera indica. Now we know that this mango, it has different names in different parts of the world. Okay, it has different names. So a biologist, in order to recognize, in order to identify this, it needs a proper and distinct name. It needs a proper and one name, so that in any part of the world you can identify and recognize it. For that purpose, nomenclature is important. We will study about nomenclature, why nomenclature is important. This is the reason why, so that it can be easily organized, so that it can be easily identified and recognized, and it can be easily differentiated from others. Okay, so this was all about today's lecture. In the next lecture we will study about more. So this is all for today. Thank you very much.